The Nix Expanse was a legend in deep space exploration. A vast, lightless stretch of the galaxy where even the most advanced sensors failed to provide reliable data. To the majority of the galaxy's species, it was a forbidden place, one of those sections of space left to fester in myth and superstition. An abyss so devoid of light that even stars seemed to avoid it, as if afraid to be swallowed up by its consuming darkness. Yet here they were on the fringes of it. Humanity had always been known for its unyielding curiosity, but this was a place no one had dared venture into for millennia. The SS Stalwart, a human deep space vessel, cut through the void with its sleek hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Aria Devlin stood in front of the viewport on the bridge, her posture relaxed but her eyes alert. The vast emptiness outside the ship filled her with a sense of purpose, not dread. To her, the darkness was a challenge, a test, not something to fear. But she knew the Valkyrie didn't share her perspective. Their ship, the Kal-Eker, hovered nearby, its bioluminescence shimmering faintly in the dark like a fading star. The Valkyrie were not made for this kind of space. Tyrell, the Valkyrie science commander, stood by the control panel, his long, translucent arms clasped in front of him. His luminous skin flickered like a distant light that might extinguish at any moment. His face, usually calm, was etched with anxiety. Arya could sense his discomfort. For a species that lived and thrived in light, the absence of it here seemed to gnaw at them, as though the darkness was eating away at their very essence. "Commander Devlin," Tyrell's voice hummed softly, a ripple of concern in his tone, "I must reiterate that venturing further into the expanse may prove disastrous. The energies here are unlike anything we've encountered before. We are not prepared." Arya turned to face him, giving him a wry smile. "Tyrell, we knew this would be dangerous. We're not just here to observe the darkness. We're here to uncover what lies within it. Humanity has never shied away from the unknown." Tyrell's eyes flickered, his antennae twitching. "But the darkness, it feeds on us. It feeds on our power. You can't see it, but I can feel it. It draws from the very core of our ship, as though the void itself is alive." Arya narrowed her eyes. She understood the Valkyrie's fears, but she had lived through situations far worse than being swallowed by darkness. "That's why we're here, Tyrell. To find out exactly what this place is, and what's been hiding in it all this time." The Valkyrie science officer swallowed, but didn't argue further. Arya had dealt with her fair share of diplomatic pressure from the Valkyrie before. They feared the unknown, but they couldn't deny the fact that humanity, despite all their flaws, had a way of surviving the things others feared. They adapted, and they thrived. Just then, a sudden, sharp chime rang out across the bridge, causing Arya to jerk her head toward the main console. Lieutenant Mara Jensen, the Stalwart's chief engineer, was already typing furiously on the panel. "Commander, we've lost power to the engines," Mara reported, her voice tight with urgency. "I'm seeing a major drain on our systems. Primary and secondary power grids are both affected. It's not a standard system failure. This isn't an electrical malfunction." Arya felt the hairs on the back of her neck prickle. The timing of the power drain couldn't have been more suspicious. "What are we dealing with, Lieutenant?" she asked, her voice even. Mara's face was pinched in concentration as she scanned the diagnostic data. "I don't know, but it's almost as if something outside the ship is siphoning our energy. I've never seen anything like it before. It's as though we're being drained from the inside out." Tyrell stepped forward, his body trembling in the low light. "I knew it," he murmured, almost to himself. "The darkness. It's here." Arya held up a hand. "I don't believe in coincidences, and I'm not about to let this place take us down. Lieutenant, can we restore power?" Mara's eyes flickered to the console, a bead of sweat trickling down her forehead. "I'm trying, Commander, but something in the void is interfering with our systems. We're almost completely cut off." A tense silence settled over the bridge. Arya's thoughts raced as she turned to the view screen. Outside, the Nix Expanse stretched endlessly, an abyss that seemed to pulse with hidden energy. For a moment, She questioned if they had made a grave mistake by entering this place. But then, the human spirit kicked in. Mistakes were nothing more than opportunities to adapt. And humanity adapted like no other species. Arya turned to her crew. We're not turning back. We're going to investigate the anomaly we detected earlier. Tyrell, gather your best people. We're going in. Tyrell hesitated, his fear palpable. Commander, if we venture out into that, we may never return. Arya met his gaze, her face set in stone. We're not here to run away from fear. We're here to face it. And whatever's straining our power, we'll find it and put an end to it. Tyrell didn't argue further, but his nervousness was obvious. He turned his team and gave orders in his native tongue, his voice a low murmur of discomfort. A few Valkyrie technicians hesitated, their skin flickering in hesitation, but they followed Tyrell's lead, moving with a reluctant grace. Lieutenant Jensen, prepare a recon shuttle. Arya continued, her mind already formulating a plan. Mara, you're on standby. We may need your expertise to patch the ship back together once we're out of the expanse. Keep the engines warm, just in case. Understood, Mara replied. She gave one last, nervous look toward the view screen before moving off to handle the shuttle preparations. Tyrell joined Arya near the hatch, his antennae twitching as he stood in the cold, sterile light of the bridge. If we are to venture into this abyss, we must understand it first. Perhaps if we learn its patterns, its rhythms, maybe then we can survive. Arya studied him for a moment. There was a deep, unspoken fear in his voice, one that only surfaced in the face of true terror. Yet there was something else there, too, the raw beginnings of respect. Not just for humanity's fearlessness, but for its ability to face the unknown and walk through it. The Valkyrie might fear the dark, but humans didn't fear it. They learned to hunt in it. Arya gave him a sharp nod. Let's go find out what's really out there. The shuttle bay doors opened with a soft hiss, and Arya stepped into the cold, metallic silence. The stalwart's recon shuttle was compact but well-equipped, designed for precise movements in hostile environments. Arya strapped herself into the pilot's seat, a flare of adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was what she lived for, the uncertainty of space, the risks and the rewards. Tyrell's team boarded behind her, their bodies glowing faintly in the dark. The doors sealed with a soft thud, and Mara's voice crackled through their comms system. Be careful, Commander. That expanse is unlike anything we've encountered. Keep your sensors running hot, and your wit sharper. We don't know what we're dealing with out there. Arya's lips curled into a half-smile. Don't worry, Lieutenant. We've got this. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as it detached from the main ship, descending into the impenetrable blackness of the Nyx expanse. The shuttle's engines hummed as it descended into the darkness of the Nyx expanse, the small vessel cutting through space like a blade through silk. Inside, the crew remained silent, each person lost in their thoughts, the unease palpable in the tight air. The further they drifted from the SS Stalwart, the more oppressive the darkness seemed to grow. What was once a distant void became something tangible, something heavy. Arya Devlin sat at the helm, her hands steady on the controls. Despite the cold dread trying to worm its way into her, she kept her focus sharp. Her eyes scanned the ship's readings, every flicker of the diagnostics reminding her of how fragile their situation was. Power losses, interference from the void, they couldn't afford any more surprises. Behind her, Tyrell paced in restless silence. The Valkyrie's translucent skin shimmered faintly, but his bioluminescence flickered erratically in the absence of external light. His antennae twitched with every tremor of the ship. It was clear the Valkyrie had no concept of navigating through such total darkness. For them, space without light was a world devoid of meaning, a place that turned everything unfamiliar into something to be feared. Commander, Tyrell spoke at last, his voice tight. Are you sure this is the right course? The longer we stay in this place, the more we risk. We don't have time to second-guess ourselves, Tyrell. Arya interrupted, her voice firm. We're already in the thick of it. Let's stay focused. We're heading to the coordinates where the anomaly was last detected. That's our best lead. Tyrell visibly stiffened, as though the very mention of the anomaly had awakened some hidden dread. The Valkyrie had never ventured this far into the expanse, and the unknown had taken a solid hold on him. He opened his mouth to protest, but then closed it again, his eyes betraying the internal conflict between his scientific curiosity and his overwhelming terror of the dark. Instead, he glanced at the rest of his team, his most trusted scientists and technicians, all of them bathed in the weak light of their personal devices. They exchanged nervous glances, all too aware that their lives were now at the mercy of something ancient, something they didn't fully understand. The shuttle jolted, pulling Aria's attention back to the instruments. A deep, thrumming pulse echoed through the hull, followed by a sharp, disorienting vibration that rattled the crew. A sudden surge of static filled the comms. She gripped the control panel tighter, feeling the pressure mount. What was that? Mara's voice crackled through their helmets, barely audible. I'm reading a significant energy fluctuation on my instruments. We're too close to something. Aria's breath caught in her throat as she adjusted the shuttle's trajectory. Stay with me. We're not backing out now. Head toward the source of the fluctuation. We need to know what's causing these energy drains. The shuttle bucked again, and the instruments went haywire. Aria's eyes flickered between the readouts, heart racing. The energy readings were spiking in ways that defied explanation, as though something deep in the expanse was alive and feeding on them. The shuttle broke through a haze of static and interference, and suddenly, the expanse wasn't just empty anymore. Ahead, within the heart of the darkness, something loomed. A massive shape, as dark as the void itself, but unmistakably there. The anomaly. The crew fell silent, staring at the massive structure on their screens. It was not a natural formation. It had geometry, angles, and lines that suggested design, not randomness. The structure was vast, impossible to fully comprehend in its scale. It resembled a series of massive spires, each stretching out like the jagged fingers of a long-forgotten god reaching into the abyss. Tyrell's voice came out in a whisper, reverberating with awe and terror. It's alive, isn't it? That thing, what is it? Aria's pulse quickened. That's what we're here to find out. She steered the shuttle toward the anomaly. The structure loomed larger with every passing moment, its presence consuming everything around it. It didn't just sit in space, it dominated it, a black hole of influence that seemed to distort the fabric of reality itself. The shuttle shook violently as they neared. The system struggled to stay online, flickering as if they were caught in a storm of static. Aria had no choice but to slow their descent, but even that felt like a struggle. Get ready for anything, she ordered. Stay alert. As they neared the anomaly, a strange sensation settled over the crew, a prickling, a weight on the skin that no one could explain. The air inside the shuttle felt thick, suffocating, as though the very atmosphere was being stolen away. The once vibrant colors of the crew's lights seemed muted, their brightness flickering. The anomaly was drawing everything into its gravitational field, slowly turning the shuttle into nothing more than a speck of dust in the void. Then it happened. A flash of light, sharp and blinding, shot through the dark. It wasn't natural, not a flash from a star or a dying sun. This light was wrong. Angular, cutting through the darkness like a blade through flesh. Aria slammed her hand down on the control panel, her breath catching in her throat. Brace for impact, she shouted, but it was too late. The shuttle was yanked forward, its trajectory altered violently. A surge of energy gripped them, and they were pulled into the very heart of the anomaly. The lights flickered out, plunging them into absolute darkness. Then, all at once, they were stationary. Still. No movement. No sound. Aria blinked, her senses completely disoriented. She reached for the controls, but her hands found nothing but cold metal. The rest of the crew was silent, their comms eerily quiet. The lights of their suits flickered erratically, barely visible in the pitch-black shuttle. What happened? Mara's voice broke the silence, her tone hushed and frantic. Did we just get pulled into something? Are we? Aria's voice cut her off, calm but firm. Keep it together. We're not dead yet. But something was wrong, so fundamentally wrong, that Arya could feel it crawling under her skin. She stood and fumbled for the emergency lights. The faint glow that filled the shuttle only deepened the shadows, casting long, jagged shapes on the walls. She could see the crew's eyes wide with disbelief, their faces pale. Tyrell took a step forward, his bioluminescence now barely visible, flickering weakly. This cannot be real. We're inside it. We're inside the heart of the expanse. The realization hit like a wave, flooding over Arya. They weren't just near the anomaly. They were inside it, pulled into a trap, perhaps by something ancient, something unknowable. She didn't know what it was yet, but she had no intention of waiting for it to reveal itself on its terms. "Everyone, stay sharp," Arya ordered, her voice cutting through the fear. "We need to get out of here. We need to find out what's causing this before it's too late." But the true nature of the expanse was just beginning to reveal itself. And it wasn't going to be merciful. The shuttle hung motionless in the void, the hum of its damaged systems barely audible in the oppressive silence. Arya Devlin's eyes flickered over the controls, but the readings were useless. Power was draining away faster than Mara could manage to reroute it. Every attempt to stabilize the ship was met with failure, as if the very structure they were inside was sabotaging them at every turn. The shadows on the walls of the shuttle grew more distinct now, twisting in unnatural patterns, as if the darkness itself was alive. They seemed to pulse and shift with a rhythm that Arya couldn't quite decipher. It wasn't just a trick of the light. There was something real about it. Something primal. "Commander, this isn't just interference." Mara's voice came through, sharp and tense. "It's like the shuttle is being scanned. It's as though something is reaching inside us. I can't explain it, but it feels like we're being probed." Arya's stomach churned at the thought, but she forced herself to focus. "Keep trying to stabilize power, Lieutenant. We can't do anything if we're dead in the water." Tyrell, who had been uncharacteristically silent, finally spoke, his voice strained and full of awe. It's not just scanning us. It's communicating with us." Arya glanced at him sharply. "What do you mean, communicating?" The Valkyrie science commander's eyes were wide, his usually composed demeanor shattered by the sheer magnitude of what he was witnessing. "The structure, it's alive, on a level I've never encountered. The darkness is speaking to us. Not with words, but through intent. Through the energy around us. It's trying to make us understand. Or perhaps to make us belong." A chill ran down Arya's spine. She gripped the control panel tighter. "What does it want from us?" "That I cannot say," Tyrell admitted. "But whatever it is, we are no longer in control of the situation. We've entered its domain." Before Arya could respond, the shadows in the shuttle seemed to react to the tension in the air. The temperature dropped suddenly, a sharp, biting cold that sent a shiver through the crew's suits. It wasn't natural, not like the cold of deep space. It was a different kind of chill, the kind that gnawed at your bones, the kind that spoke to something ancient and terrifying. The lights flickered again, and for a heartbeat, everything went dark. When they returned, the shuttle's walls were no longer just the smooth, metallic interior of their craft. The walls were covered in black, tendril-like patterns that pulsed with a dark light. The very surface seemed alive, twisting and undulating with a life of its own. It was as if the ship was part of the structure now, an extension of the alien entity that surrounded them. Mara's voice crackled again. "What the hell is happening?" "The ship's systems are responding to it. It's like the hull is alive." Arya swallowed hard, trying to keep her fear in check. "Mara, get the diagnostic tools. See if you can get any readings from the ship's core. Anything at all. We need to understand what we're dealing with here." As Mara began to work, Tyrell's gaze was locked on the patterns covering the walls, his expression both horrified and fascinated. "It's like a living organism," he muttered. "It's not just the structure that's alive. The whole expanse, it's connected to something older. Something that existed long before the stars burned their first light." Arya's mind raced. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to run before they were consumed entirely by whatever this thing was. But her feet felt nailed to the floor, a part of her unwilling to let go of the curiosity that had brought them here. A part of her still wanted to know what lay in the heart of this darkness. Suddenly, the shuttle was jerked forward, the entire craft lurching as if it had been caught in an invisible grasp. The crew scrambled to maintain their footing, but the force was too strong. Arya fought to keep the ship steady, but the controls were useless, nothing more than dead weight in her hands. A voice broke through the chaos, deep and resonant, almost reverberating through her bones. It was a guttural sound that made her insides twist with a primal sense of dread. "You are not welcome here." It wasn't spoken in any recognizable language. It was an experience, an impression, a feeling carried through the dark, like a heavy hand pressing down on their chests. It wasn't a command. It was a statement. It was as if the very fabric of the expanse knew they were intruders and had made its verdict clear. Tyrell's voice trembled as he spoke again, his eyes wide with terror. "The expanse that speaks through us. We've made a grave mistake. It was never meant for our kind." Arya felt a knot form in her stomach. "We're not backing down. We're not leaving until we understand what this is. We came here for a reason. There's something in this dark, and it's ours to uncover." But as she spoke, the shadows outside the shuttle grew more intense, more oppressive. They were no longer distant, but surrounding them, pressing in from all sides. They twisted in impossible shapes, forming monstrous outlines that seemed to stalk just beyond the threshold of her vision. Mara cursed under her breath. "Commander, we've lost all power. The hull integrity's dropping. There's something tearing at the ship from the outside." Arya's blood ran cold. "We need to get out of here now. Now." Before anyone could respond, the shuttle's outer walls suddenly cracked open. The sound was a terrible screeching of metal, a noise that could only come from something powerful enough to tear the shuttle apart. The crew's seats jerked violently, as though an invisible hand was yanking them toward the darkness. The lights flickered again, and this time, they did not return. The ship was spiraling into nothingness. For a moment, there was no sense of direction, no gravity, no reference point. The crew members were tossed around like ragdolls, and Arya could feel herself slipping into unconsciousness, her vision dimming. But through the haze, she heard the voice again, this time closer, vibrating directly through her skull. "You are insignificant. You are nothing but ants before the darkness." The words cut through her like a blade, but Arya refused to give in. She wouldn't allow herself to be beaten by this thing, this ancient force. Not after everything humanity had accomplished. Not after all the battles they had fought. With one final, desperate surge of will, she threw herself toward the controls, her fingers finding the emergency override switch. The shuttle bucked as the emergency thrusters ignited, throwing them back into the stream of space. They were being expelled from the heart of the expanse, kicked out, like nothing more than vermin in the eyes of the creature that ruled this place. The ship stabilized, and the pressure on her chest eased. Arya's breathing was shallow, ragged, as her eyes flicked over the remaining systems. They were alive for now. They had survived. But the darkness outside still pressed in, the expanse lingering like a nightmare that refused to let go. "Commander, we need to get back to the Stalwart," Mara gasped. "We can't stay here. Not after what we've seen." Arya hesitated, looking once more toward the dark void. The expanse might have driven them out, but it had left them with a warning. They had learned too much, and in doing so, had woken something older than the stars themselves. "We're not done here," Arya said, her voice steely with resolve. "This thing isn't just a threat. It's a mystery we can't ignore, and we'll be back, stronger, smarter." The crew exchanged uncertain looks, but they nodded, knowing that Arya was right. Humanity had always faced the darkness, and in the face of it, they had never run. They would return. The Stalwart's hangar bay was a buzz of organized chaos. Engineers raced across the deck, shouting diagnostics, rerouting power, and stabilizing failing subsystems. The shuttle, scorched and fractured from its encounter within the expanse, sat like a wounded beast, wrapped in containment fields to prevent further damage. Commander Arya Devlin stepped out of the airlock, helmet in hand, the dark streaks under her eyes betraying the toll of the mission. Her uniform was torn, her gloves scorched, but her gaze was sharp, focused. Across from her, Captain Darius Roke, the ship's commanding officer and a veteran of a dozen off-world campaigns, met her eyes. He had the stern, weather-worn look of someone who had seen too much and expected to see more. "You disobeyed direct orders, Commander," he said without preamble. "You took a scientific crew into a region that fried half your systems and nearly got everyone killed." Arya didn't blink. "We found something." "You provoked something," Roke growled. "You woke it up. Whatever's in the expanse, it's not just dangerous. It's strategic. It let you go, Arya. That means it has a purpose." She stepped closer, voice low.
"Exactly.
"And that purpose might already be moving." There was a long pause. Roke exhaled slowly. "You're thinking invasion?" "I'm thinking defense," she said. "We barely survived, but we did survive. It tried to crush us, scare us. But we're still here. Others won't be so lucky." Tyrell entered the hangar, his translucent skin dim, antennae drooping. He looked like a man who'd glimpsed the divine and found it terrifying. "The Valkyrie are already retreating from our joint research stations near the expanse. The Hothri fleet is gone dark. They're afraid, and they should be." "But humans aren't?" Roke asked. Arya shook her head. "Humans adapted to Earth's darkness by mastering fire. We made friends with the night. The expanse made a mistake letting us live." Roke studied her. Then, with a grunt, turned to the deck chief. "Prep the counteroffensive protocols. Begin full-spectrum EM isolation. I want deep-range probes ready within 2 hours." "You're authorizing a return mission?" Tyrell said in disbelief. "I'm authorizing a strike," Roke said. "The first one may be symbolic. The second won't be." Hours later, deep within the Nyx expanse, the stalwart moved like a ghost between the stars, its stealth systems dampening even its heat signature. The outermost regions of the expanse no longer shimmered or pulsed. The darkness was still, watching. This time, they came prepared. With power sources hardened against disruption, signal buffers enhanced by quantum lattice shielding, and a tactical team of both human marines and Valkyrie warriors armed with experimental weaponry designed to interact with non-Newtonian entities, humanity was no longer just exploring. They were hunting. "This is madness," Tyrell whispered aboard the command deck. "You do not bring war to a thing that defies existence itself." "No," Arya said. "We bring proof that existence will fight back." A ping lit up the main screen. One of the deep probes had found it. The structure, the pulsing obsidian spire from before, now fully emerged. No longer shrouded. It wanted to be seen. They launched a squad of 10, a hybrid team. Arya led them herself. Tyrell volunteered to join, claiming he had started this and would not leave it unfinished. As they approached the monolith again in the dropcraft Echo Vulture, Arya noticed something new. The structure had changed. It had grown. Elongated channels now spiraled outward, like nerves stretching from a central brain. It wasn't just a relic. It was a body. Mara, monitoring from orbit, gasped over comms. "Arya, we ran the new scans. That thing, it's not just absorbing energy. It's feeding on reality. Local spacetime is thinning. If it spreads further, we end it before it spreads." They landed. Inside the monolith, contact. This time, the walls didn't shift. They welcomed. The interior was like walking through the belly of a god. No metal. No recognizable material. Just dark matter crystallized into form, resonating with low vibrations that tickled the base of their skulls. Then came the voice.
Not words this time.
Not language. Emotion. Anger.
Curiosity.
Hunger. It hit them in waves. 2 Marines collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Another fell to his knees, weeping. But Arya smiled. "You're afraid of us," she whispered into the dark. "You think fear will stop us. But we've thrived in fear." The air warped. Reality bent. The being, whatever it was, appeared. It was not a shape so much as an impression, a distortion in perception. A void with thoughts. It reached into Arya's mind and recoiled. "You see now," she said. "We are not the light. We are what burns in the dark." Tyrell stood frozen, trembling, but he spoke. "You misunderstand the species. They do not seek harmony. They do not cower. They seek purpose. And when you threaten that, they unify," Arya finished. "They evolve. We've turned radiation into food. We've made weapons from dust. You think the dark makes us weak." She stepped forward, pulling the trigger on a device strapped to her chest. A quantum imploder surged. The pulse ripped through the chamber. The creature screamed, not in sound, but in the reverberating collapse of space around it. The floor cracked. The walls buckled. "Run," Arya ordered. The team retreated, Tyrell dragging one of the injured Marines. Behind them, the monolith shuddered, its illusions failing. The truth was exposed. Beneath the shadows, there wasn't a singular entity. There was many. A hive of dark sentiences, using the monolith as a womb. It was a species. Dormant, hatching, and hungry.
But now?
Now they were vulnerable. Back on the stalwart, retaliation. The moment Arya's team was aboard, Captain Roke gave the order. "Fire." The stalwart's orbital strike package activated. Hundreds of plasma-encased quantum warheads launched from bays hidden within the ship's armored hull. They weren't just attacking the structure. They were collapsing the local space-time pocket it fed from. The warhead struck. Reality shattered. The monolith cracked, ruptured from within. Screams, not sound, but existential howls, echoed through the expanse. The hive had been broken, their womb destroyed. And then silence. Real, complete silence. The stars returned to that section of space. Faint at first, then brighter. The darkness was gone. Epilogue: what we leave behind. Later, as repair crews restored power and medics treated the wounded, Arya stood on the viewing deck. Tyrell joined her, his skin pale but flickering with soft light. "We have awakened something vast," he said. "There will be others. Perhaps more their kind." Arya nodded. "Then we'll be ready." "You humans?" Tyrell looked at her with something close to reverence. "You do not fear the dark. You become it when it serves you." She smiled. "We were born under a black sky, Tyrell. We made our fire and hunted the beasts that hid from us. You thought we feared the dark because we brought light into it. You didn't realize the fire wasn't for seeing." He frowned. "Then what was it for?" "To burn what hunts us back." Final line. They assumed humans feared the dark, until they learned we hunted in it.